I'm fooling around.
Wow, sounds like fretless. When you play it.
People say that, but it's if I turn the chorus off. I guess I can put more, but I don't like the sound. You know, I like that lovely legato sound, so.
So, how do you like our country so far?
It's beautiful here. I have a very hard time pronouncing the name of this city. Križevci. Križevci.
Križevci.
Križevci.
Križevci.
Križevci. I'm an American. I can't Križevci. But what is beautiful here is the countryside is so special. I went with my good friend Boris, who organized this clinic, and we went to the castle, and I've been out in the country with my friend Alfonso, who works with me when we tour, and this is beautiful town. We walk around, and Boris is always waving at people because it's a small town and everybody knows him. So this Croatia is just a beautiful, beautiful country, and I'm for the first time discovering how beautiful it is here. Yeah.
You should see our sea. Our sea is great.
Your sea is famous, and I would love to come next time and play or teach or do something at the seaside. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, do you think Croatian bass players have some potential?
I think
those guys here.
Well, they have potential if they learn music, because I have potential to learn Croatian if I learn the words, and the Croatian bass players have potential if they learn the music, but certainly you have great musicians in Croatia. This class was special because it gave me a chance to teach bass players information maybe they didn't know. So the potential, yes, absolutely. The way a musician gets better is by learning the music on the bass that they don't know. And this event was good because people come here a little afraid. Oh, what if I'm not good enough? Well, you're not supposed to be good, or else you don't need to come here. We have a couple of guys, right, Peter? We had a couple of guys that didn't read anything, no notes. We had one or two guys that could barely play anything. You have to begin somewhere. And I don't want good players to come and learn from me. I want inexperienced players who don't know how to play to come, because I'm a very peaceful teacher. My reputation is that I'm a hard teacher, but I'm not, because mistakes are part of learning. And everyone, when they come and study with me, makes mistakes, and we go, fine, fix the mistake, let me help you. So that's what I've discovered with the Croatian bass players, is the first hour they were nervous, like what's going to happen. But I'm very easy. I teach slowly, and I teach good content, perfect music. Music makes you better, not me, music.
Thank you. So let's talk about your new album.
Yeah.
Low Standards.
Low Standards.
This month?
Yes. Low Standards is my latest evolution. Did you have a personal question about it?
Yeah. What is the message behind that title? Low Standards. Because you have the album High Standards.
Yes.
So, Low Standards versus High Standards. Can you please explain us that?
Because this record is almost all acoustic bass, and me playing, and lines, and I play a lot of the lines, the solos, melodies. I try to play melodies and solos while the bass. that's what I'm doing on the top of this and drums. And because it's two bass players, I call it low standards. It's a joke for me. And I chose standard tunes that are not too popular, but it gave me a lot of chance to find new harmony on the bass, things that are not very common for bass, for four-string. So I'm very happy with the low standards. I think it's my best CD.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Where did you get your inspiration for the CD? Personal life or something that happened to you? Or you just played?
Every musicians that record want to do a record better than the last one.
Yeah.
So after High Standards, which I liked, I thought I would do a new CD and try to present a better, higher level of bass that I could provide. So my inspiration is really no more than my wish to continue on the path of playing that I've been on. And over the time that between the two CDs, I've been practicing and looking at new ways to play. So I presented them on this new CD. And interestingly, after recording Low Standards, I found some new ways to play. So I'm already preparing the next CD. But right now, the best, let's say, most modern version of what I do as a bass player is Low Standards. I'm very happy with that one.
Well, you said when you were recording this album that you have had always in mind Keith Jarrett or Gary Burton. What do you mean by that?
Gary Burton and Keith Jarrett are two of the greatest jazz improvisers in music.
Yeah.
We bass players often improvise, but improvise according to the instrument. So what we play is usually which is symmetrical on the instrument. What I wanted to do was more Gary Burton or more Keith Jarrett. Keith Jarrett would improvise. He improvised. These are lines that I'm playing that are Keith Jarrett lines that I never would have played. And these are all Keith Jarrett type improvisations. Gary Burton is like this too. So what I'm showing here are lines that are not typical of bass players, and I wanted to improvise on certain songs and not sound like a typical bass player. And that's where I got my inspiration from Keith and Gary.
Well, now I get what you meant by the concept of this CD. Let me quote you, please. Was to leave you completely exposed as a player. Now I get that.
Yes, to be completely exposed.
Wondering, what did you mean by that?
Well,
Exposed.
it means that as good or as bad or as capable or as incapable as I was at the time of the session, that's what I wanted to show. So when I'm exposed, everything I played was mostly live. I fixed a couple of mistakes, things I couldn't live with. But what it is the opportunity to expose myself, to be completely an improviser on bass, playing music that was spontaneous at that moment. So that was the way that I would expose my ability at that time. As a bass player in jazz, not in the pop gigs I play or the rock gigs, but in jazz, I choose to walk on an edge where it might be a little not sure, because that's the excitement of jazz. If I play, let's say, in a more pop or something, I like this too. It's just more steady. So I enjoy that, but in exposing myself here is to do things that are not natural for a bass player.
Yeah. So is there any other wizard that we should know about behind the album besides Gary Burton or Keith Jarrett?
No, the Wizards are the players, Mike Clark and Richard Drexler. What's interesting about this CD is Richard Drexler is the pianist. He's also the upright bassist.
Oh.
So what Richard did was play upright bass when I was soloing, and when I stopped soloing, he put the bass down, walked to the piano, and played a piano solo.
Oh, wow.
And that's all live.
All live. No Pro Tools.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
He did that. He did that.
Wow.
He put the bass down, he walked to the piano, and I think that's the first record that I know of where this happened in history.
Wow, wow. Okay. Is there anything more you want to say about this album, or?
No, I'm happy with the...
Okay, thank you. Let's talk about the Players School of Music.
Yeah.
What is your teaching concept? You know, our mutual friend Boris Brcic said you always have something more to add to show your students, even in lunch hour. I admire your devotion to your work.
The idea is musicians are different. Some start here, some start here, some start here, some start here. What I try to do is find where a musician is and help them to learn from there. So the Players School in Clearwater, in Florida, near Tampa, takes musicians that cannot read music, that cannot play bass, that cannot play guitar, and teaches them how to play music. It also, what it does, or what I do, is when I do seminars here, I find out where a musician is, and I make sure that they get some information to get them to play better, because in America, I'm not a very popular man among teachers. They're not very happy with me. And the reason that they're not happy with me is because I make comments saying, if a teacher or a school or an event of some kind that offers to teach you, or a website or something offers to teach you and does not give you musical information to practice, I tell people don't pay money to go there. Because if I want to learn Croatian, the only way I can learn Croatian is to learn the words. It's the only way. I can tell you that, you can tell me Croatian is a spiritual, happy language, and that the love of Croatian and these words are beautiful. Now pay me. And in many ways, music websites do demonstrations. When I play like this. It may not work for you, but it'll work for me. So try it. I tell people, don't pay money for this, because whatever I teach them is going to work for them. If they're the biggest player or the beginner. And when I say this, teachers are very mad at me. And I understand, because teachers teach with love. They're not bad people. I just think that music is the way to learn, because in everything, the facts are first. Everything. You learn Croatian, you learn the facts. You build a house, you have to know the facts. You want to study medicine, you have to learn the facts. You pay money to learn bass or guitar, you have to learn the facts. If you don't, you've paid money to feel good, not to learn how to play. Oh, one last thing. People in Croatia and all over the world are afraid to learn music. They're afraid of it. They think that there's a big mystery, which there is not. They think they have to sound good before they come to learn. They do not. They think they can't make mistakes. Yes, you can. People have made up their minds already. And I've met musicians here, and we've talked about it, some of us, that musicians in Croatia are afraid to admit that this is what they know, and that's all. If you come to a clinic or you come to a music school or an event, you have to admit, this is all I know. The only thing I know in Croatian is olovka. Olovka. Now, if you teach me more, I have to learn the words. So musicians in Croatia can relax and find a teacher or a school, or come to me in Florida, or go somewhere where they only teach music. If you do that, you're going to get better.
Well, Geddy Lee said once that you're the best bass player in the world. What is your comment on that?
I'm not the best bass player in the world. I'm a bass player that has learned a lot about bass and has made my statement as an artist. I'm also a bass player that's learned a lot about academics and make my statement as a teacher. Geddy was being very kind.
Yeah, thank you. What about Jaco Pastorius? What's your experience with him? He also said that you are the better soloist than he is.
Well, Jaco was not a very good soloist, but he did everything else in music. So he was a genius. He created the whole bass genre, but what he could not do was solo through chord changes in a kind of a melodic way. And the solos you hear, Donna Lee, was composed. It was written out. What Jaco was a brilliant composer. Fantastic. So he wrote out the solo and learned it. And the same with Used to Be a Cha-Cha, the same with Havana, the same with most of the solos you hear. Because if you compare Jaco's solos away from Weather Report or his solo records, you compare any solo with those solos on the records, they don't compare. Because Jaco was not a good improviser. He was a good composer and learner, and that made all the solos that Jaco played. These are composed solos, brilliant solos, but they weren't improvised. So he made me a compliment.
Oh.
Right, here comes the guys.
Yeah.
Here comes the
You were asked to play with Mr. McLaughlin. What was your approach to McLaughlin style of playing or Van Halen?
Well, Van Halen was more rock, and McLaughlin is more odd time signature and phenomenal speed. But now I'm not the fast bass player I used to be. Now there's many more bass players much faster than me. With Van Halen, I'm a very strong rock bass player. So if a rock band calls me, you know, I'm a very strong rock bass player. With John, it was and I don't do this anymore. I'm not that good anymore.
Do you play with a pick?
No.
No.
No. But pick is just another way to play. So you can play with a pick, you can play with a 6-string, you can play with a 9-string, you can play fretless, you can play active, you can play anything you want. That's your art. What you learn on it is your content. But I don't play with a pick, but Steve Swallow does, and who else? Anthony Jackson does, Bobby Vega does. There's a few amazing pick bassists.
Why did you turn down the offer to play with Van Halen?
Because when you join a great band, you join it in its entirety. You join the philosophy of the group, the spirit of the group, the commitment to the band, not just as a business. But Van Halen at that time were into certain things that I was not into, so I said no to the band.
Wow. Can you tell us a little bit about your Mark bass combo signature?
Well, this amp was sent to me by Marco Di Virgilis several years ago, and he said, "Would you try it?" So I tried it, and I instantly loved the tone. I still think it's the best sounding amp that I ever played. And he said, "We'll make you anything you want." I said, "No, I want the 15-inch." And this speaker is that, but he put my name on it. But that was an honor. That was a nice gesture. I did not build this amp. No, I did nothing. There was a tweeter, and I asked him to take the tweeter out. That's the extent of my building.
So that's it?
That's it. I didn't do anything. He said, "I'll make you anything. 10s, 8s, what do you want? Power, crossover." I said, "Give me a 15-inch because of the tone." I only function from tone because all amplifiers are strong. And then this one is more expensive than this. And this is like 400 euros cheaper, I think it is. And this is named after my school, the Players School of Music. So I put them side by side because the tone, again, with the chorus, it just sounds like a almost like bells. You know what I mean? And these amps are just fantastic, so I'm a big fan of Mark bass.
Yeah. What about the bass frets?
Bass frets? I play frets. I don't play fretless out of an artistic choice. And I try to play frets where I don't make noise, if you follow what I mean.
Yeah.
Where that kind of noise. My preference is, you follow, where it's not so, and I guess I can add some bottom to it, make it sound warmer. And it sounds great for funk if you don't. So I don't like fret noise where it's going to be. I prefer not to have that sound.
Yeah. Can you please play it for us, Tears in Heaven?
Oh
I
boy.
just love to hear that. Again.
I try to remember. Nice piece, right?
Yeah. Great piece.
Good evening, friends. It's a nice little work.
Awesome. Awesome. So, what is your next stop on your teaching tour? Where are you next?
I've actually just finished a concert tour, and then was invited to come here and do 3 days in Croatia. I go home to the Players School for a week, and then I go to Asia, and I have some concerts there in Japan, in Korea, in Taipei, and one other place, I don't recall. So I've been touring since March. I was in South America, then I came to Europe, and now tonight I think is the last class we have, and then tonight I play with Elvis. And what's your last name, Elvis?
Penava.
Penava. Yeah. Elvis Penava is a great jazz guitar player here in Croatia, and he's playing tonight. And tomorrow I go back to Milan, and then fly back to America, and then I go to Asia. So I haven't stopped. And then I go back to Europe. I go to Italy in June. So it's a busy time, and I'm grateful. I'm very grateful. I met new friends. That's what makes this nice.
Okay. Thank you.
I sabotage new friends.
Huh?
I sabotage new friends.